There's a clearly defined definition of what hate speech is. So it's not overreaching, it's fairly specific. It's
the
not
Supreme
really
Court
pretty much say anything you want except for extreme things that you would not agree with, I would think, and that nobody would really want to agree with in a civilized society.
You don't know what free speech is then.
It's going to be a fun one. It's going to go all over the place. I do apologize in advance for the video I'm going to show next. It's a rough one, but man, times are tough in Canada. It's time for Canadians to wake up to the things that are going down. Let's take a peek. Let's get into this. We've got a lot of great pieces to watch in this video. Let's go.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
6 months ago, a G7 leader for 10 years, through this time of tremendous challenges. I was Prime Minister of Canada, which is the largest democracy in the world, if you count only by geography. And you don't have to have followed Canadian politics to know what we went through in Canada, because we all went through versions of it. A global pandemic, climate disasters, an unpredictable United States, a disruptive China, economic upheaval, war in Ukraine, war in the Middle East. And on the domestic front, it'll also sound familiar, housing crisis.
Is it too soon to try to stomach Trudeau? Oh my goodness. Let's check out more nonsense coming out of our new Prime Minister. Try to make sense of this. Good luck.
So our election and our policy was first and foremost, it was fight the tariffs, have a reaction. We had one of the strongest reactions. Protect our workers. So there were many ways we were doing that, but one of the things is we were taking all of the tariff revenue, putting it back into workers, helping workers retain their jobs, but also retrain, protect our communities against crime. But the core, the core message was build. And it was to build and build in a positive way. You need a positive agenda, and it matters how we build. And I'll just leave you with a couple of core messages that ground our approach in the election, but very much in governing. First and foremost, we can give ourselves more than any foreign government can take away. So our ability to have one Canadian economy, we have a bunch of internal trade barriers, we're removing all of those. Our ability to build for the future new trade corridors, clean energy, artificial intelligence, diversify with partners, all of that is much greater than what could be taken away, even in the worst tariff scenario. So you have a positive element to that. The second thing that we emphasize is how we build. So we build as a nation. We build first and foremost thinking about workers. So the message to Canadians has been, we are going to create not hundreds of thousands of jobs, but hundreds of thousands of careers in the skilled trades and other skilled areas, and setting up in parallel with major projects and investments, apprenticeships, skilled training, so that Canadians are ready to take advantage of that. Last point, we have historic issues that are current issues in terms of reconciliation with Indigenous Canadians, Indigenous peoples, and the nature of the major investments we're doing is that there will always be Indigenous participation in the equity, in the ownership, in the building. So it's a progressive element, thinking back into workers and being inclusive with all groups in society, with a core positive message on build. People want and deserve that positive agenda, so it's not engaging on the turf of the more negative agenda, but focusing on the positive.
All right, we'll go from train wrecks of prime ministers to car crashes. Look at what happened in Northwest Edmonton last night. What a disaster.
Are you okay, bro? Dang, shit. Tumutumo na to.
Andrew Lawton, MP from Ontario, is one of my favorite guys to watch. He's new to the House, but this guy's got a sharp mind. He's exposing the fact that the cops have their hands cuffed when it comes to cracking down on crime. Check this out.
Your officers encounter someone who's using drugs in public. You're laying a charge. What are federal prosecutors doing with those charges on simple possession?
Who's laying a charge for simple possession?
So let me ask you, what do your officers do in a case like that, and why?
Most of the time, they're not doing anything. They move on to something else.
So your mic was off. I'll ask the question again and get you to repeat it. So when your officers come across open drug use in public, what are they doing and why?
Yeah, a lot of the times, my mic's on now, a lot of the times they're just seizing it for distraction. They may not go down the road of actually laying a charge. If it was, you'd see it withdrawn. If it's a resource issue with the federal prosecutors, I don't know, but that's generally what happens in the city right now.
And these drug charges, just for those unaware, these are federal prosecutors, the Federal Public Prosecution Service of Canada that's responsible for that.
Yeah, if you want to go again for a ride along, you can come down into 51 Division, which is down at Regent Park, and you can see open drug use every day right in front of you.
We're out of money here in Canada, but our Prime Minister doesn't seem to be aware of the fact. Our parliamentary budget officer is hitting the alarm, like letting Canadians know this can't maintain. We can't keep this up, the rate at which he's spending.
Factored in a lot of things. What was incredible, though, I think, and this is where the opposition had a field day, it's the language this parliamentary budget officer is using. Yeah. And so testifying before a committee, here's a couple of the adjectives the PBO is using about the spending. Quote, very alarming. Quote, stupefying, shocking, unsustainable. And when the PBO is using language like that, it's a field day for the Conservatives. Now, the problem, I think, politically for the Conservatives, and of course they're absolutely right to use the PBO's words, is that every poll we've seen, internal government polling that we have through access to information requests and the public polling done by our people like our polling partner Ipsos, Canadians are not that concerned about the deficit.
Well, in the UK, I've met with business and investment leaders to discuss new economic opportunities and partnerships as we look to attract capital to Canada and to empower Canadian workers with new high-quality careers. My message to business leaders here in New York, throughout the world, is we have what the world wants.
Prime Minister, it's me, Pierre Poilievre, the guy you've been dodging in question period, trying to avoid questions about how inflation, debt, crime, housing costs, immigration, and tariffs are much worse today than when you were elected, promising to make them all better. You've been avoiding accountability by jet-setting around the world on expensive trips to faraway places. Let me be clear, I don't begrudge anyone as a leader for reaching out and building ties, but it's just that you don't get any results. In fact, you have the reverse Midas touch. We have double the U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods, now new and higher tariffs from China on our farmers and fish harvesters, and you're back to the United Kingdom, where the Brits continue to hit our farmers with protectionism that you have not succeeded in removing. You've gotten no results whatsoever. So I do have a suggestion for the next inevitable trip to the United Kingdom that you might make, and that is this: apologize. When you were the governor of the Bank of England, you caused an inflation crisis by printing way too much money. In fact, inflation was far worse in the UK than in neighboring competitor countries. It had the second highest inflation during your time there. In all of the G7, the only country that was worse, unfortunately, was Canada under your protege, Justin Trudeau. And housing. You caused a housing crisis by flooding the market with cheap cash, which of course helped the billionaire class and the insiders, but shut young Brits out of homes. Does that sound familiar? Just like Canada under the Liberal government. Now, if you were to apologize for all those things, it's not just that the Brits would appreciate your contrition, it's that it might signal that you'd learn something from your dreadful economic mistakes. It's not just that the London Telegraph said that you were the unreliable boyfriend of central banking. It's that these terrible policies repeated in Canada could cause even more suffering. by showing that you understand your failings, then maybe you can learn from them. After all, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We as conservatives have learned from your failures, and we're here to help you avoid repeating them. We believe in cutting back on the bureaucracy, getting the deficit and the tax burden down so that hard work actually pays off in this country. Remove all that bureaucracy you keep building so that homes can actually get built, that people can afford, and unlock our resources so that we can become a self-reliant country. Those would be great lessons to learn from your failures, but first, you have to admit that you made them. Before you can do that, I recommend you park the plane, get to work, and do your job.
I like the fact that I have the music I have and they can't change it, because you see they do change songs because, woke Canadian assholes, for example, are the type of people who don't believe in free speech, like they don't anymore in Germany or England. And so, like, they will change songs. I saw...
We have freedom of speech in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Well, but you got to fight for it.
We can say whatever we want up there.
Okay, I hope so.
Yeah, we
because
can.
I
think it's a little overblown. There was something about sharing news on.
No, it's not Canada, but
media.
England has arrested people for opinions on the internet, and I'm not down with that. And so
I think there's
Germany.
been some misinformation about me getting all Canadian right now, but there's been some misinformation about Canadian freedom of speech, though, that's been floating around out there. Like we've got freedom of speech in Canada. It's in our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We have freedom of the press, freedom of assembly.
Yeah, well, just because something is in a charter, I mean, we have it too, and Trump is threatening that, and sometimes the left is threatening that.
I've never experienced a situation where I can't say something up there. There are hate speech laws in Canada, so there are things you can't say. But you know what? Who would want to say that shit anyways, right? So
that's not what free speech means.
Right. It's a slight. But there's a clearly defined definition of what hate speech is. So it's not overreaching, it's fairly specific. It's
the
not
Supreme
really
Court
pretty much say anything you want except for extreme things that you would not agree with, I would think, and that nobody would really want to agree with in a civilized society.
You don't know what free speech is then. You don't know.
Well,
that's not what free speech is. That's the definition of not free speech.
Okay.
Like what everybody thinks. Not everybody thinks the same.
Mm.
The Supreme Court ruled in our country that the Nazis could march in Skokie, Illinois.
Yeah.
Which they were marching in because it is a community of a lot of Holocaust survivors, many of whom were still alive at the time.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court said, as abhorrent as that is, that is what free speech is about. Anybody can defend the speech that we all like, but sometimes it changes what people like, and you just don't want to be limited that way. Now, if you are literally inciting violence or kiddie porn or something like that, yes, there are things, and they're already illegal. But it gets very dangerous in my view.
So what should we do, gang? Stick a fork in Canada? It's toast? Oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? I still care about this country. Maybe it can be saved. Aaron Canadian Looney, let me know in the comments. Do you think it's salvageable? That's it. We'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. Ciao for now. We'll catch you in the next one.